What's up, guys? Running it back with another replay for you. We've got a Beastman versus Greenskins showdown on Borderlow Landing. Turn helming the Greenskins. I'm on the Beastman here. Just playing around with my new favorite faction for the time being until we get the DLC. I'll be swapping back over for all the juicy corn stuff after that point. But right now, we've got Butchers of Kalkengard moving up with some Razor Gore Chariots to support the Zangors. Capping up the number 2, we have Taurox on the field. I do have a caster who is coming out, Bray Shaman of Wild, but no Traderkin. Actually bringing Bestial Surge and procking that with Vile Tide and Bray Scream. Just experimenting a little bit to see what, you know, kind of effect I can get out of having, you know, like decent vigor on all my units for the early stage of the battlefield and see what Bray Scream and Vile Tide are all about as spells. Ungor Spearherd. Taking the side objective, my home objective there, and Turin does cap the number 3, but I've got a big Vanguard in the woods, and seeing him move off with his skirmishers, I am going to push up now, actually. I was thinking about making a back play here, and I see now that this is the time to pull the trigger. He's got some Orc boys slowly moving up, and as I get up onto this objective, we're going to arrive at about the same time, and with my Ungor Raider Corps, I've got 3 of these guys here in the woods protected by all these crappy little spears. They should be able to get some good damage on these guys, and if the Wolf Raiders move back over, they'll also be in a pretty good position to get gunned down by the Ungors. Ungors are very good with their bow fire. They've just got a lot of models, and they fire pretty quick. They really are one of the better bow units in the game. They fire every 8 seconds as opposed to like 11 or 12 with most bow units. So they got a pretty high fire rate. And like I said, 120 models, even if their weapon damage really isn't all that much to speak on, still damage, right? It's gonna add up over time, and Greenskins are pretty lightly armored as a faction on the whole. Black Orcs and a handful of other units are some of the rare exceptions. Here in the middle, we do have some Savage Orc Airboys firing in on me. Black Orc Big Boss, Night Goblin Shaman, Skarsnik on the field. Skarsnik, very fun Lord option. And the Brass Bull, just chilling here, just waiting for an opportunity to get into combat. Broken Tusk Mob, looking to maybe get on top of him, but I do have spears that can support him if need be. I'm going to pull him back a little bit, and the Razor Gore Chariots are going to take the first charge here. They get some fat damage on these Orc boys, just rolling right through the middle of these guys, and I am going to try and pull them back through, but Skarsnik, who I didn't realize was on the field until just now, popping a Fermented Fungi, getting a really nice bit of damage in here. Gonna do a lot of good work for my opponent, but I do get a nice side charge with the Butchers of Kalkengard. Their region's gonna help him out a lot. And a pretty good Bray Scream coming in, actually. Getting some pretty good work done. And the Orc boys do rout, thanks to the efforts of the Butchers there. They do have Terror in a very convenient package for you. Zangor's taking a lot of damage from these bows. I do get some Grog Hooves out. They're a very good ROR unit. They've gotten a little bit of poke as they've rolled through, throwing those axes and getting some damage on the Savage Orc boys. I do have some more Zangors folding into combat against the Orc boys, taking as many fights across the battlefield as possible. I am down on value, but I'm not really sure where a lot of that's coming from. I think it's mostly on the Butchers of Kalkengard, you know, and these guys do have the regen. They've taken a lot of bow fire, but they will be okay. They have only lost 1 model. Losing 1 model really isn't that big of a deal. Another Bray Scream comes down, but casting it a little bit behind. I've gotten off another Vile Tide as well, and the caster, you know, taking a bit of damage here. And he's surrounded by the Force Goblin Spider Riders, but he'll be okay. He's pretty durable. They don't have very good AP, and the Ungor Spearherd are going to help peel for him. They're going to chip down these Spider Riders very quickly now. Skirmisher Fire is doing a very good job of peeling my Ungor Raiders now. And these guys do get compromised by the Orc Boy Spears and the Black Orc Big Boss. Broken Tusk Mob try to get around the flank. They've gotten horrendously manhandled by the Butchers of Kalkengard. And they do get intercepted by the Razor Gore Chariots. And you might think Razor Gore Chariots won't do well against Orc Boys on the boars, but the issue here, Razor Gore Chariots are actually very capable in melee combat. They've got 39 melee attack and 30 melee defense with great weapon strength and charge bonus. They can actually flatten a lot of units on the charge. You get enough Razor Gore Chariots in a horde, and you can actually just outright run over entire blobs, no matter what they are. Groghooves did kill one Savage Orc Airboy, but they do get taken offline by Forest Goblin Spider Riders and Orc Boy Spears and Savage Orc Airboys who shut them down. Centaurs charge in, but they get intercepted by the Forest Goblins. But Zangors move up, and they will be helping out in this fight, chipping away at the HP on those guys. Middle does flip to me. The battle is just chaotic as hell all across the field here. We do have another fermented fungi going down, this time on the Butchers of Kalkengard. Not a lot of follow-up here, though. The Butchers did just flatten the Orc Boy Spears with the assistance of the Razor Gores, breaking that inexpensive spear unit that would be helping out against these Butchers really nicely. They are still taking a ton of bowfire. Lots of Wolf Raiders doing some good damage here, using these Ungor Raiders just to shoot down the remaining Broken Tusk mob, and they'll be going off the field in just a moment here. I do have some other Ungor Raiders here. They are rallying. They are going to be trying to fire back against the Skirmisher Corps, and Bestigors come out. Bestigors getting on top of the Boarboy Biggins here, as well as on top of the Savage Orc Airboys, who do get terrified by the presence of the Butchers of Kalkengard here. Savage Orc Boys coming out. Oh, Orc Boy Biggins, no less. Very powerful combat unit. They've got great weapon strength, good melee attack, but Bestigor Herd will be excellent against these guys. Bestigor Herd can go toe-to-toe with them in melee, just with their own decent melee attack and weapon strength. As well as having really good armor, they're actually going to be able to just tear these guys to pieces. Some Centaurs great with great weapons. I do charge them through. They do good shock damage, and I am trying to pull them out. They're going to go and try and save the last of the Razor Gore Chariots here, which have done pretty decently. Have a little bit of room left to go. But, man, just using Torox as a beat stick right now, you know. He is getting caught up by some Bork Biggins. I just love calling him that. Easiest way to get the word across. Night Goblin Shaman gets the absolute snot beat out of him by Torox. Torox being an absolute nightmare for that caster, and doing me some really good damage there, helping me out tremendously. Wolf Raiders do steal the middle from me. I am a little bit behind on tickets, but not too terribly. I have resecured the number 3 here, and I do have my home objective, which is really nice for me. Groghooves. Very beat up back here. They got okay value before they went offline, though. Could have played a little bit safer with them and done a little bit more, but you live and learn. You gotta take the lumps as you go, as you're learning a new faction, and I am fairly familiar with Beastmen, but just trying to learn the ins and outs of them now, and we'll be seeing how far I can take these guys. I'm feeling pretty confident with them as it stands. I'm really not feeling like there's too many bad matchups. Beastmen just have a lot of strength. They got a lot of Vanguard deployment. They've got some very powerful magic options. Lords are a little iffy. Torox may not be the most meta option, but he's done pretty good work here. And I do think there are some matchups where he definitely can work out. Centaurs with great weapons, very beat up, very tattered. They've got a little bit left to go, and one last Vindictive Glare goes down from the Night Goblin Shaman, but that overcast damage, man, pretty brutal stuff. Kind of KOing him there. And using some Ungor Spear Herd. Very cost effective to just chase stuff off the field with these guys if your opponent's not going to peel for them. And they're dragging down Savage Orc Airboy models as they go, which is also really amazing. And Scarsnake a little caught out in the open field, taking big damage from these Ungor Raiders, man. Ungor Raiders are so nice. Even if they get... your opponents are often going to realize that they need to be dealt with, and will commit quite a bit to going after them. You just don't want to leave missile units on the field if you can help it. And they are pretty squishy. They really don't have that much health. 6,300 is better than some missile units in the game. But they've got terrible armor, really bad leadership. Pretty bad melee stats, better than some skirmishers actually, but still nothing to speak of, and they got short range. But, as I said, they're incredibly cheap. 425, they've got Stalk. You can do some sneaky action with them. And they just will grind away over the course of a long game. You can see most of them have gotten good value. This one's pretty much doubled its value. Doing me a lot of good work, and I can't really complain about that at all. Really happy with their performance so far. Butch's a Kalkengard. They've done pretty well for themselves. They have gotten a lot of healing on them. Pretty much making up the difference in gold value if you really want to take a gander at their regen. You know, they've gotten up there, and they've only got about 1,600 left to regen at this point, which isn't too bad for me. Fermented Fungi does go down to rampage these guys, lowering their melee defense. Just pretty brutal, but I do get a nice little Brace Scream here, which does damage to everything. Which I was a little surprised to find out just how effective that 16 all armor-piercing damage really can be against all targets. You know, getting good damage on the Squig Herd, Orc Boys, and even a little on the Swamp Things here. And, you know, Butchers just doing some good work as well. Chipping through all these guys, terrifying the Orc Boys away, which is really favorable for them. Torox is going to pull out of this combat. Riding is on the wall for the Butchers. There are some Spider Riders that are looking to get up in behind them and get a good charge off now. I do have tons of Gore Herd out on the field. They have just barely managed to save the #1 objective here. Centigores, they've rallied here. They did take a charge against the Boarboy Biggins, which isn't super favorable, but helped out a little bit. They took out some Orc Boy Spears as well in their very tattered condition. Can't be too upset by that. And Groghost of Wolf's Run coming back out here in the late game. They replenished a little bit. They got nice and trashed. They do have the Drunken Bravado, which gives them heal and axe, as Rowdy does otherwise, with the leadership and perfect vigor. And they're slowing down these Orc Boarboy Biggins, not really letting them get on top of Torox. Gonna help keep this guy nice and safe. You can see they're got down to 60 speed. Can't technically catch the big angry bull here. Groghoofs do take a charge against the Squig Herds here, but I am going to push through with the Gore Herd now and try to pull out as many of the Groghoofs as possible. They are going to take some casualties, but it's not going to be too terrible at the end of the day. The Gore Herd are going to buffer and help out here tremendously, and you can see with their good weapon strength, even though they're not designed as anti-large, they can help dig through the HP on the Boarboy Biggins here. And Butch the Kalkengard, man, with 4 models rallying up, getting the last little bit of regen on the 4 models they've got left. They have paid for themselves, doing really well with these guys. They've been a great unit for me. And the best Gore Herd, they've been unsung heroes this whole game. They kill some Squig Herd. They chew through a bunch of infantry on this objective, as well as beat down Skarsnik and the Black Orc Big Boss pretty nicely for me. They held up a lot of leadership here, which gave me time to chew through the Swamp Things, through the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, Squig Herds, and the Bork Biggins. Centigores with great weapons. They've taken a head-on charge against these Orc Boys. Gonna lose that, but giving time for the Centigores to get around the Orc Boys here and just get right on top of the Savage Orc Air Boys. Savage Orc Air Boys are pretty good in melee combat, but Zangors are gonna help follow that up. Or rather, some Gore Herd. Zangors, they're just hanging out back here. Very tattered and beat up. I guess it was just Gore Herds I was summoning in. And one Zangor is going to maneuver over. Couple of Spider Rider, or not Spider Riders, Goblin Wolf Riders with the Archers. I'm going to be firing the little bow and arrows. Trying to kill the Ungor Spear Herd that are back here. But these guys do have shields. They'll persevere through the worst of it. And if Turin wants to maneuver around behind these guys to get the most damage or onto the sides, I do have quick stuff that can respond over there and do some nasty work against them. Centigores, with the assistance of the Gore Herd, do break the Orc Boys and the Savage Orc Air Boys here, pretty much brutalizing the Greenskins, and that is actually going to be game here. Really well played to Turin. But unfortunately just not able to keep up the pressure across the battlefield long enough to get the win here. Just hanging in. And finally beating down the majority of his army, and pretty much everything en route. I did kill Skarsnik and the big boss here. Big boss being chased down by the gore herds, putting me in the winning position there. Even if he had the hero core on the field still, I don't think it would have been very winnable. He's got the Spider Riders here, but I'm pushing up some Ungor Raiders to push them off. And just going to endure through that. Centaurs would rally and a whole bunch of other nastiness. Torox, man, was great. Torox just doing me some really solid work. Beating down the caster, beating down a bunch of units. Being the big beat stick that I needed him to be. And we'll check out his value here. Just about paid for himself. I believe he's 1,800 with just the brass body, which is the only ability I brought on him. I don't really see the point in bringing some of his other abilities. Slaughterer's Call might be worth having on him as well, just because he gives army-wide buffs, but the cheaper you can bring your Combat Lord, the better. And he's really only situationally good. He found some good targets here to fight, and just stiffened up the resolve across the battlefield. I had the Bray Shaman, who got some really good value, man. 1,481 value on this caster, with a pretty unorthodox spell kit, mind you. Traderkin would have been better, just because I could have nuked Skarsnik and the Bork boss down. But Night Goblin Shaman, you know, did some okay work for Turin, and would have been a little harder to snipe. And I really did kind of want to just see how the extended spells can do for the Beastmen. And Wild's Magic actually seemed to do quite a bit of work for me with Viletide and Brave Scream. And I actually really do feel like the Bestial Surge ability actually did give me some pretty nice holding power in the early game, keeping my vigor nice and high on a lot of my units. Meant that they didn't break nearly as early as they otherwise might have. And just staying out on the field longer with my cheaper units meant that my mobility, even though they didn't trade stupendously this game, I was a little reckless with my Centaurs. They were still able to get some nice damage done, and really helped out the Bestigors once they came out on the field. A lot of the Big and Cav, the Durkit Squigs had been dealt with. The Swamp Things weren't out on the field yet. And the Error Boys were the big catch for me. They really got no value to speak of, which was amazing for me. This one came out a second time. Did get a little value the second go-around before getting taken offline. And the Wolf Rider Archers were the only skirmishers that were able to stay safe. They got some pretty decent poke in. Nothing tremendous, though. And I was a lot less worried about them than the Error Boy Corps, so Bestigors were able to just get away scot-free for the most part and get into melee combat against whatever they wanted to. They're pretty fast. They hit really hard. They've got great weapon strength. They're almost as good as an Exalted Bloodletter on the charge, I've found. Not as good as in prolonged combat, and they don't have quite the same potential for grinding through infantry, just because they aren't specialists, but maybe being a little more generalist and just also being a little bit quicker when Primal Fury is active does make them a little bit better on top of being cheaper. So gonna be excited to experiment with these guys a little more. I'm curious to see what other matchups they might be good in. Definitely gonna be a situational unit, though. I don't think they're a mainstay of the Beastmen core, but Razor Gore Chariots, man, talk about a brutal unit. One or two of these in your army are going to do you some really disgusting work. They are very powerful. They did get shut down pretty effectively by Turin, but even with all of that, they almost paid for themselves, and they did a great job of drawing a lot of aggro that I was able to punish. The Bork Boys, all of whom traded okay, not amazingly, though. One of these two came out 2 times. The others just came out the once. One traded really favorably. The other, mediocre. and Broken Tusk Mob just weren't really able to get it done. They really didn't hold in too well, getting charged down by the Butchers of Kalkengard, trapped up by spears, shot by arrows. Just focusing with everything the Beastmen have to offer was more than enough to drag those guys down, and that helped me out a lot with the mobility and the fighting in the early game. And it was a little bit hazardous to take that fight on the back objective, but, you know, risk it for the biscuit, and I had a really fun time scrapping with Turn in this match. Always fun to go head-to-head with him, and I'll be seeing him around once again, I'm sure. We seem to run into each other on bracket pretty much every single time we're in a tournament, so we'll have at it one more, and we'll see who comes out on top next time. That's it for this one, guys. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see y'all later. GG's.